Today I am going to chant Nirvana Shatkam by Adi Shankaracharya. The meaning of these two verses are: Never am I the mind, nor intelligence or ego, neither I the organs of hearing, nor that of tasting, smelling or seeing. Neither I am the sky, nor the earth, neither the fire nor the air. I am the ever pure blissful consciousness. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. I am without any variation and without any form. I am present everywhere as the underlying substratum of everything and behind all sense organs. Neither do I get attached to anything nor get freed from anything. I am the ever pure blissful consciousness. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कार चित्तानि नाहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च चिदानन्द रूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्द रूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न च चिदानन्द रूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्द रूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे चिदानन्द रूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्द रूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न पुण्यं सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Na mrityurna shankana me jati bhedaha pita naiva me naiva mata na janma na bandhurna mitram gururnaiva shishya Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Aham nirvikalpo nirakar rupo vibhutvacha sarvatra sarvendriyanam nacha samgatam naiva Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham 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 Shivoham
I'm reading from the book Universal Message of the Bhagavad Gita, an exposition of the Gita in the light of modern thought and modern needs by Swami Ranganathananda. Sanatana Dharma is universal in nature, very pure and rational. Vedic Dharma includes all dharmas, accepts all religions, and nowhere else can we see that type of universal religion. To protect the Vedic Dharma and uphold the Brahman ideal, Sri Krishna was born as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. He had no particular purpose to fulfill as far as he himself was concerned. By his own Maya, he assumed the human form and he imparted the twofold Vedic Dharma, namely Pravritti Lakshana and Nivritti Lakshana to Arjuna. What was Arjuna's state then? He was immersed in the ocean of Shoka, sorrow, and Moha, delusion. These two emotions can distort every aspect of life. An ocean, as it were, of sorrow and delusion overcame Arjuna, as we shall see from the description of Arjuna's grief in the Gita. Sri Krishna conveyed a profound message to Arjuna and through him to all of us. Being full of compassion, he came to this world assuming a human form and underwent many difficulties. Sri Krishna's life was full of troubles. We may think that a person of such an exalted state has an easy life, but it is not at all so, for it was a very tough life. Mahatma Gandhi is said to have remarked that only a Mahatma can know another Mahatma's woes. There were character assassination of Sri Krishna, just as we see today in our political life also. Someone alleged that Krishna had stolen his precious gem, the Shamantaka, and called him a thief. Poor Krishna had to prove his innocence. He searched for it and ultimately found two poor children playing with it and restored it to its owner. There are many such incidents of false defamation. Sri Krishna could have ignored them, for he had nothing to gain or lose. However, when in a human body, the incarnation has to suffer pain and insult. Whatever joys there may be are lessened by many sorrows. Any being with a human body has to pass through these. However, an incarnation is aware that though with a human body deep inside, there is the fullness of divinity. What was Sri Krishna's intention in imparting this message to Arjuna? That Bhagavan, who is ever in possession of knowledge, lordliness, power, strength, energy and splendor, controlling his all-pervading Maya or primordial nature with its three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, though himself is unborn and immutable Lord of beings, and in essence eternally pure, awakened and free, appearing through his own Maya, as if with a body and as if born, is seen as working for the welfare of the world, though he has nothing to gain for himself, in order to ensure welfare of the world's beings. He imparted to Arjuna, who was submerged in an ocean of grief and delusion, the twofold Vedic spiritual message of action and contemplation, with the conviction that when it is received and understood and practiced by people of more than ordinary virtues, it is bound to spread like one lamp being lit from another lighted lamp. That dharma, as expounded by Bhagavan Sri Krishna, was converted into the celebrated Bhagavad Gita by the omniscient Bhagavan Vedavyasa in 700 verses. Here is it.
Now a short period of meditation. Today we have special Sunday service because of the presence of our special guest speaker, Professor Narendra Bakshi. At this point of time, I would like to invite Narendra Bakshi on the dais here. Take the chair. You all know him very well, and whenever he comes and speaks, it's so much of joy and knowledge he gives to us. He did his master's in India and came for doing research and PhD in the United States. And in Virginia, he did his PhD in 1956. And then he worked in US for a few years, then went to England and he worked in industry there. But it was to our good luck that he came to Canada and joined the University of Saskatoon. In the University of Saskatoon, he rose to the level of professor of the chemical engineering department, and now he is professor emeritus. That is his academic background, very successful and trained many students into the research, many PhDs and many master's theses he guided. Very famous, very highly regarded in the university. But in other aspects, together with science, he is a man of spirituality. He has been in the search of truth in the science as well as in spiritual knowledge. It is in his very DNA, it's there. To have that research, he got into touch with Vedanta from the beginning, from India, and came in touch with the works of Swami Vivekananda. When he came to the West, it became more intense longing, and he in fact got formal training and initiation into spiritual life by Swami Bhashyanandaji of our Vedanta Society of Chicago. Every year we get him. Last year we have attended a retreat. The talk he gave in the concluding session was so fantastic. Everybody enjoyed so much. In fact, every talk of his on the Gita is very much we enjoy. Not only he gives talk here on the Gita in Vedanta Society, but he gives regular classes at his residence also in Toronto. Now he has moved to Toronto. His daughter is here and daughter and family. And today I welcome you all, and especially his daughter and his wife, and there are his grandchildren also. So I welcome you all to this wonderful talk by Professor Narendra Bakshi, and the topic of the talk is Uplifting Power of Spiritual Wisdom, which Professor Bakshi wants to call it in the original name, Jnana. That is Sanskrit name for the power that uplifts us, the power of knowledge. I won't take much time. Professor Bakshi, you are free to talk more than 45 minutes. We have already taken your time. Please go ahead 45 plus minutes, and we want to listen fully and enjoy your talk, Professor Narendra Bakshi.
Thank you, Swami. The talk which Swami has announced, I would add just one more word to that, the uplifting power of Jnana, of spiritual wisdom. I'll simply add the great uplifting power. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a little story behind the talk which I'm giving today. A number of years ago, I came across a book. The title of the book was Talks with Swami Vivekananda. And these were the talks when he talked to one of the disciples, Sarachandra Chakravarti. I had read some of the other books too, but I said here he's talking to a disciple just sitting at his place, so that he'll be more relaxed and so on and so forth. In those talks, I noticed that after every few minutes, the Swami will say a Sanskrit word, and Kalena Atmane Vindati. I don't know Sanskrit, so I didn't know what it meant. And he didn't translate that into English because Mr. Chakravarti was a great scholar of Sanskrit, so there was no need for him to do anything. And somehow when this word Kalayan Atmani Vindati obsessed me. In Urdu, I come from Delhi originally, it's called Takiya Kalam. People talk and after a few minutes they keep on repeating the same word all over again. And first it bothered me, but later on I became very inquisitive. What does it mean? So after 2-3 years, time passed, and I was reading Gita and I came across a particular verse. This verse is in the 4th chapter, and this Kalayan Atmani Vindati. And really the talk is about that particular verse. Nahi jnane satyam pavitram eha vidati tab swayam yog samsiddha Kalayan Atmani Vindati. All it means, Kalayan Atmani Vindati means, over a period of time you'll find it yourself. So I read that particular verse. It didn't mean very much to me. I said, oh yeah, sounds very nice. But after another couple of years, when the veil lifted, I found this particular verse so profound that actually, if one understands it correctly and practices what it says, there is nothing else you need to know. Absolutely nothing else. One verse. How to live this world, and ultimately how to find or achieve the summum bonum of life. Can you see how profound if we understand it and practice it? So that is the story behind the particular verse. Now I come to New York Times. In a recent column on New York Times, a guy by the name of Roger Cohen, an op-ed editorial person, he was talking about the Syrian refugees and the treatment he was getting them, these refugees were getting in Europe, and about Greece, how well, in spite of their poverty, they are treating the refugees. So he says, here is a rough guide to the modern world. More efficiency and less humanity. Technology is principally at the service of productivity. That is what we are today. Acts of irrational grace are not its king. And then he says, why? Because these acts do not have an algorithm. Algorithm is simply how do you get there, how to achieve that. Now they have no algorithm, and that triggered in my mind, and that is the greatest conundrum in our day-to-day activities. How does one know to make a right and wise decisions full of grace, full of humanity, rather than decisions which many times all of us make, which are destructive, wrong, hurtful, and harmful? Isn't that the whole problem everywhere? We are making decisions all the time. How do I know that my decision will be the right decision? Okay, how do we approach it? So the usual answer would be that more education and more knowledge one has, and more experiences of life one has, both knowledge plus life's experiences, one will be able to make wise decisions, which are right, just, and beneficial. However, when we look around, what do we see? We see a mess created all around the globe by the educated and the knowledgeable people. Whether it's financial, whether it's political, I don't have to recount that. You can read in the newspapers, that's all for what you see. One wonders then, if education and knowledge by themselves are good enough. Something is amiss here. I'm sure many of you must have heard of a great British philosopher by the name Bertrand Russell. He passed away in 1970. A great scholar. I have tremendous respect for this man. Both a mathematician and a philosopher. He wrote a number of books. One of the books which he wrote was The Impact of Science on Society. And he says, mind you, this is roughly 1960s, and at that time he's saying, he sounded an alarm quite early when he said, we are in the middle of a race between human knowledge as to the means and human folly as to the ends. Unless men increase in wisdom as much as in knowledge, increase of knowledge will be increase of sorrow. Increase in wisdom, both knowledge and wisdom has to go together, and just alone focusing on the knowledge itself will be increase of sorrow. And that is exactly what seems to be happening. Despite a tremendous increase of knowledge from 60s, now we are 50 years after that. Knowledge has increased in every area by leaps and bounds, but what about the wisdom? In our own Hindu scriptures, there's a book called Uplifting, where the sages just give us various verses for our benefit, day-to-day life, and there's a very beautiful verse, and it says, Aha, and this is about wisdom, but put much more bluntly than Bertrand Russell did. And it says, Ahar nidra bhaya methneshu, smanyam etat pashubhur nananam, jnanam naranam adhikam vishesham, jnane nishunya pashubhissamana. Four things are common between human beings and the animals. Food, sleep, fear, and procreation, having babies, are common to man, woman, human beings, and animals. Only man is endowed with wisdom or jnana. And a man, a human being, without jnana, without wisdom, is equal to an animal. And I will add to it one more thing, sometimes even worse than an animal. And we see that happening quite a bit all the way around. So, all this begs a few questions. First, what is wisdom? How does one go about getting wisdom? Is there any algorithm for that? And when and how does one know that one has got it? Does one go to some school or an institution to get wisdom? Can it even be taught to anybody? So, what do you do for the first thing when you want to find an answer? Then go to the dictionary and see what the dictionary has to say. That's what I did. So the dictionary defines wisdom as the power of judging rightly and following the soundest course of action based on knowledge, experience and understanding, etc., good judgment and sagacity. Big words. I think we do understand what it means, but what exactly? Being an engineer, you want to define it a little more clearly and precisely. So, what is the source of wisdom? Where does all these ideas and things arise? This is the function of a very critical faculty each one of us has. And this faculty is called buddhi, and the English word is intellect. But the intellect is, buddhi is much more comprehensive word compared to intellect, and we'll see that a little later on. So, when I won't say intellect, I'll say buddhi, but those who don't understand what buddhi really means think that it is intellect I'm talking about. So, this buddhi, when it is refined and purified through spiritual discipline, and we'll talk about in detail a little later, this buddhi, this intellect, develops the power of discrimination. And then you know automatically what is right and what is wrong. And then, of course, it also develops the power to pursue what is right. Many times we know that, I know what is right, but some other can't do it. But with that particular power, buddhi is refined, then we develop the power. Now, just to give you an example of that, the power of this buddhi. And this particular example comes when Swami Shivananda was alive. He was the second president of the Vedanta Society back in India. And the story is related by Swami Vidyatmananda, and he was an American Swami. I don't know where he is right now, but the story goes something like this. So Swami Vidyatmananda, remember, an American Swami, American, but become a Swami now. So he was working on a journal called Vedanta Kesari. And one day, he's talking about, actually the story was written to him by one of the other Swamis. So this is the third Swami he was talking about. I was working on the Vedanta Kesari. One day, I requested Swami Shivananda to write an article for the magazine. He said he would. And then he bought him a notebook and a new pen for this purpose. After 2 weeks, I inquired if he had written anything. Swami Shivananda said, Abani, that was his pre-monastic name, I wanted to write something. And I thought of the subject. But as soon as, mark these words, but as soon as I thought of the subject, I immediately came to the conclusion, to the answer. So what would I write? Imagine. It's completely unbelievable. Oh, here's the problem, here's the answer. Incredible and incredulous. The right solution to any query available to us immediately. No studies, no research, no reading of 10 books, million books, no lab work. Impossible. I would say the way we are educated. But that is the power of that refined buddhi. Another example I'll give you of Swami Vivekananda. You know, he came to Chicago to attend the World Parliament of Religions about 1893. And after the World Parliament of Religions, he wanted to collect some money so that he can go back to India and start school and all that. So he fixed himself with the lecture bureau and delivered many lectures. And many newspapers reported those lectures, and they reported about his Swami, what type of person he was, and you know what he talks about. His Americans' impression of the Swami Vivekananda. Remember, he goes and delivers lectures. This is the subject, Swami, will you speak? And the Swami speaks. So, this is in the newspaper Free Press, Detroit. And there are many other newspapers wrote about him, something like that. So they're talking about, this is in the Detroit Free Press. It says, he showed himself to be one of the best orators of the Congress. They're talking about Swami Vivekananda. Speaking, remember, this is 1893. Indians were not supposed to know any English language. Speaking faultless English without notes and with an utterance that many of his hearers declared would itself have been music had he not understood a word. As a matter of fact, this happened because he was speaking such faultless English in 1893. When I came to the US in 1953 and I spoke English, the guy at the immigration said, "Oh, he speaks English." So things, that meant time has passed, but for some reason, anyway. Since the Parliament, he has spoken to immense audiences in many towns and cities. And those people have only one opinion of praise and are enthusiastic over his magnetic power and his way of giving light and life to every subject he touches. He didn't carry any books with him. Remember that. Naturally, his views of the great questions coming like himself from the other side of the globe are refreshing and stirring, and to American people, his hearers are pleasantly astonished when the dark-haired, dignified man arises in rich yellow robes and speaks their own language with fluency, distinctness, and correctness. Furthermore, these are the observations, nothing seems to disturb him. Nothing ruffles the infinite calm which rests upon his features. Nothing changes the placid consciousness of his inner life. How do you think this man was able to do all these things? He didn't give one or two lectures, hundreds of lectures. And everywhere, this is what the people of the country felt about him. So there must have been something. So his being established in that pure intellect, pure buddhi, and yoga as well, yoga sansiddha, we'll come to that in a minute. And such a person, Gita calls sthit prajna, a person who is established in stable wisdom. Big word, but means the same thing. The buddhi has been refined and it has developed that power that nothing disturbs you. It's not that negative things don't happen. Yes, but you take it in stride and the response comes. The right response comes. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that there is no difference between pure buddhi, refined buddhi, and the Atman. Because the light of the Atman shines through fully when the buddhi or the intellect gets purified. Okay, so how does one achieve all that? And the answer was found by our ancient sages and crystallized beautifully by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita almost 5,200 years ago, and the 4th chapter, the same verse which I read a little while ago. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram eha vidyate tatsam yog sansiddha kalena atmani vidyate. The translation simply is, verily there exists nothing in this world, nahi jnanena sadrisham, as purifying as jnana, spiritual wisdom. He that is perfected in yoga realizes that in oneself in due time. When you say the spiritual wisdom, it doesn't mean this is a watertight compartment, that this spiritual wisdom is there and the worldly wisdom is different. Not at all. It is the same wisdom now which tackles the worldly problems, whatever your issues are, and it is the same wisdom which connects us to the divine. So it's exactly the same thing. So, as I said earlier, very profound verse, and the two words which we should understand what are jnana, what does one mean by this jnana? Simply saying that a spiritual wisdom from an engineering point of view is not good enough. What exactly am I talking about? And the same thing with yoga sansiddha, perfection in yoga. Well, over here also we have yoga, we do physical exercises with our body and all that. Is that yoga? Or yoga sansiddha, in what way does one achieve this perfection in yoga? So jnana means spiritual knowledge, wisdom and understanding. And not only that, but ultimately this must lead us to understand our own nature, which is divine. In other words, becoming divine oneself. So starts at one level, slowly and gradually one progresses, and that's where we end up. Okay? So the capacity to handle life successfully depends on this light of knowledge. Sometimes also called Jnana Agni, fire of wisdom. If this fire of wisdom is burning bright, one can withstand any nonsense of life. One will not be disturbed by the life's ups and downs. Furthermore, such a person has developed a steady mind, because that is the result of the spiritual wisdom. The mind does not get disturbed. Things happen, and then the proper response comes from that mind. As I said, the other name is Sthit Prajna, a person who is constantly established in the awareness of his own reality. Bhagavad Gita describes the characteristics of Sthit Prajna, man of steady wisdom, in 18 verses. In the second chapter, 15 to 72, if one wants to go in more detail. Being a chemical engineer, I'll give you a chemical engineering example for that. I hope I'm sure you have understood the word petroleum refinery, where you take crude oil and refine it into gasoline, diesel, and various other products. The thing with the crude oil is, sometimes these oils are not too bad, like coming from Iran, Persia, Saudi Arabia, some from Houston, Texas as well. But if it comes, what we in the oil sands, it becomes very dirty. When you say dirty, it's heavy, it has a lot of chemicals, undesirable chemicals, and many other things in there. So imagine this black box, no matter how good or bad the crude oil is, it just does something, and out comes the gasoline, which one can use. Out comes the diesel fuel, which one can use. Out comes butane, ethylene, which make polyethylene and various other things like that. And heating oil comes out of that, you name it. But out the desirable products. The point I'm trying to make is, this black box has the power to take in good to bad, but always spit out good products. Think of the human mind in the same way. If one has developed this Jnana Agni, a fire of wisdom, no matter what one is faced with, the response will always be positive, wholesome, beneficial, and good. No road rage. That's a knee-jerk reaction, because the person doesn't have that wisdom. The person gets perturbed. Oh, this thing happened, bang, comes the reaction. I heard somebody says, reaction, I think Swami Jnana used to say, no, don't react, act. There's a pause in there. Okay? So, that is what we are after. That is the spiritual wisdom, and we'll see how to develop that. And what is Yoga Sansiddha? Literally means perfection in yoga. The verse says, one who has become perfected in yoga develops this spiritual wisdom over time. I am still amused by this Kalina Nirindati, because it throws me off, but on the other hand, I'm very amused by that. Why does it take that much time? And where does it come from? The beauty is, it comes from yourself. As one practices this, slowly and gradually, as if the curtains get lifted, and you say, that's what it is. That is what it is. Your own understanding develops. That doesn't come from anywhere else. And the curtains are going to be lifted only if we lead a disciplined life. Otherwise, the curtains become more and more dense. And then, of course, the responses are pretty dense as well. So, this development of jnana takes place with special kind of effort. One has to practice diligently spiritual discipline. This spiritual discipline is indicated by the term yoga here. In this discipline, all our actions are performed to the best of our ability, with enthusiasm, in an unselfish manner, and the results, fruits of action, offered to the divine. Gita defines this as yoga karmasu kaushala. That all the actions are performed skillfully. And what is the skill involved? Because all the things, I am not doing it. It is the divine who is doing it. So I am just an instrument. And then ultimately everything is being offered at the feet of the divine. Essentially, one dedicates one's thoughts, actions, all to the divine. The whole life gets divinized. Every act in the daily life can be sanctified by dedicating it to God. Such a life also is called a life of Jnana. Such a person, there's another name for that, it's called a yukta, Y-U-K-T-A. Yukta means exactly the same thing. This is how character is formed, this is how one develops compassion, dedication, largeness of mind and heart, and the service capability. The Hindus have defined a very interesting name for that. We call it Raj Rishi. Raj Rishi simply means, at heart, one is a Rishi, a sage. But outside, one is a king. In other words, no matter what the activities are, you are involved in a million activities, it doesn't really matter. But deep in heart. The Chinese also have a phrase for that. They call it sageness within and kingliness without. Exactly the same thing. Probably Buddhism must have gone out there. So remember that word, Raj Rishi, sageness within and kingliness without. So now let's see how to achieve all that. What are the steps we can take? This is an art and science of making the right decisions, the wisdom we are talking about. Slowly the mind develops the steadiness, equanimity as never truffled. So, how do we get started? There are many ways, I'm sure. If you go to your guru, the teacher, probably depending on his makeup, he or she will give you different views. But when I looked at it, for me the answer came from Tulsidas, his Hanuman Chalisa. Going to Hanuman. Does he have any qualification to teach all these things? So I thought I'll give you some of his qualifications. He's the, first of all, the foremost devotee of Lord Rama. He is foremost among the wise. Buddhi Madam Varishtham. He is the source of immeasurable strength, Atulit Baldhanam. His complete mastery over his senses, Jitendriya. He is foremost among the wise and knowledgeable, Jnaninam Agragarnam. He is highly knowledgeable, Vidyavan. He is extremely smart, Ati Chatur. And he guides us along the right path, Kumati Niva, Sumati Kesangi. So all these things he has done and the examples are there. So what does Tulsidas wrote? These 40 verses in praise of Hanuman, right in the very beginning, it comes, this is the second verse. And what does he ask? Doesn't ask for money, doesn't ask for position, asks for three things. Three types of strengths. And he said, Buddhi-hina tanajani means, I don't have any wisdom, I don't have any buddhi. I have no intellect at all. Sumara Pavan Kumar, I remember you, I pray to you. Bala, Buddhi, Vidya, Devamo, give me strength, give me Buddhi, and give me Vidya. Vidya means knowledge, Vidya actually. And then whatever my negativity was, take all of my negativities out of me. So, Deha Mohi, Haru Kalesh Vikars. So, I'll define the Kalesh and Vikar first because these are the negativities. As a matter of fact, if these afflictions and the negativities, we get rid of them, in other words, we overcome them, then the path becomes extremely easy. Nothing else needs to be done. And what are these Kaleshas Vikars? So there are 5 Kaleshas. These are avidya, it means ignorance, and I'll define what ignorance is. The other is asmita, which means egoism, raga, likes, dvesha, dislikes, and abnivesha means clinging to life. So, ignorance is not the usual type of ignorance which we understand, I don't know about this thing. Ignorance here means in reality, there is nothing else but God or Brahman. Somehow our vision is faulty, as if there's a curtain, as if there's not enough light, and instead of seeing God, we see all these varieties. Ekam eva advityam. The final realization is there's only one. Because of our faulty vision, we see a variety, we see many things. So let's not worry about that, but that is what is meant by ignorance. It's the same thing called avidya, it is the same thing called maya. That means exactly the same thing. Anyway, so these are the 5 Kaleshas, and there are 7 vikaras. Kama, Krodh, Lobh, Moho means Kama means desire, lust, Krodh, anger, Lobh is greed, Moho is attachment, and Kara is egoism, Mother is pride, and Matsarya is jealousy. And if I remember, these are also in Christianity too, the 7 deadly sins. So people will think they know these things. So it is our prayer from Hanumanji to remove all our negativities and grant us these 3 things, Bala, Buddhi and Vidya. Bala is the strength. We can have strength only if you are going to be healthy. So health, strength, vigor, vitality. How do you achieve that? One prescription. The prescription for that is you have to lead a balanced life, a proper, healthy, disciplined life. Gita describes that in the 6th chapter, verse 17. Yukta ahar viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasya, yukta swapnasya, bodhasya yogo bhavati dukha. Same word yoga comes in there. For him who is proper and disciplined in eating doesn't mean that eating through my mouth alone. What am I eating through my ears? Am I hearing good things or bad things? What am I seeing through my eyes? So all the inputs to the body-mind complex is ahara. Recreation, proper in its all the actions, regulated in sleep and wakefulness, spiritual discipline, and yoga means spiritual discipline becomes destroyer of pain and sorrow. You know that. If you have regulated lifestyle, things will be, health will be good, and chances are you'll have a reasonably disease-free life. So, the other thing here is, the Gita has, I don't have the particular verse with me, but has a special verse. It says, you have to make your own effort. Do not blame anybody else. So the self-effort, and it goes so much to say, as much as that if you do not pursue this particular path, you're your own enemy. So the thing is, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. So pursue that kind of lifestyle that it will give us health, bal and all that. And not only that, this yukta is a very important word. Yukta means discipline, both physical discipline, mental discipline. this is also a prescription of happiness. Pursuit of happiness is everywhere. All of us run for that. And this pursuit of happiness, this particular being a yukta lifestyle is the prescription for happiness. And this verse comes in the second chapter, 66. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, nacha ayuktasya bhavana, nacha bhavata shantasya kuta sukham. There is no wisdom, no buddhi in the unsteady, a person who does not have a yukta lifestyle, nor has he can meditate. In other words, the thoughts and the mind will be dissipated all over the place because the lifestyle is not proper. And if the thoughts are not proper, how can you have peace of mind? And if you don't have peace of mind, how can you be happy? So, being a yukta lifestyle also is a prescription of happiness. Now, buddhi is an interesting word. It is not mind. In Hindi, in Sanskrit, the word is manas for that. It is not even smartness. Smartness means meda shakti. There is another word for it. It is the faculty of reason, judgment, and discrimination. It represents the integration of the energies of intellect, emotion, and will. It's a very profound word. So, when we say purification, what really do we mean by that? In our, we are a human, we have a human form, but there are three personalities, and I'll add a fourth one to that a little later too. We have an animal man, that is the lifestyle. The mind hasn't risen higher yet. We have a human man, at least evolved a little bit, and then we have a divine man or a God man. That is the evolution. And that is where the buddhi comes in. If the buddhi we develop it properly through spiritual discipline, we move through that. And of course, I'm sure you can add another one, one below that, animal man. I mean, I don't know, a devil man if you want to call it. And one example to me, to my mind comes a number of years ago. I read in the papers that somebody, a young guy, took a little kitten and put her in an oven, in this microwave oven. Can a human being do that? Even an animal won't do that. So people of that kind of a thinking we have, unfortunately. But in any case, let's not go that far. So that is the evolution. That is the work with us, for us. Animal nature, human, and then ultimately evolution to the divine. So the help is there from the Gita. And this comes in the 10th chapter, verse 10. Bhagavan gives us a very simple method, not hard work at all. And what is the method? Tesham satat yuktanam bhajtam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yugam tam yena mam yantake. To them who are ever steadfast and serving me with affection, remembering me, I give that buddhi yoga. In other words, if you do that, remember me, sarvada sarvakaleshu harichandana, all the time, under all the circumstances, just think of me. I give that buddhi yoga, and once I give them this yoga buddhi, then they come to me. And then of course the question one can always ask, well, I have a million other things to do, how can I remember him all the time? Somebody must have asked him the same question, Ramakrishna, and he said, yeah, if you have toothache, do you forget the toothache when you're doing a million things? So it's something like that. It is going on all the time inside you, and then all the other activities are going on too. But just that effort, effortless effort, Slowly and gradually, kalena atmane vindati. I'll repeat the same word line. Over a period of time, the curtains are lifted. And you yourself find the answers. No Swami gives you the answers. You find the answers yourself. Even the God doesn't enter in the picture. Because essentially, we are all divine. So all what is happening is, we are expressing our divinity. Little more light, little more light, little more light. So, this is a powerful and full of tremendous meaning. First, with such a buddhi, yoga buddhi or disciplined buddhi, mind is always calm and steady, full of luminosity. Kind of buddhi is the best guide in human life. A life lived according to such a buddhi will always be a dharmic life. A life lived according to dharma, righteousness. Not only that, then we'll experience our own divinity as well. Then, another very interesting, not only interesting, but very profound thing happens. If we keep in touch with this divinity, remembering all the time. The next verse, this is 10th chapter, 10 I told you earlier, the next verse is 11. Now Bhagavan says, Tesham eva anukampartham aham jnanajantama nashyami atmabhavastho jnanadipen bhasvata. Out of mere compassion for them. Somebody had written that grace of the divine descends when we become grace worthy through self-effort. When that happens, he says, yeah, he's a good guy. Let me help him. And the help comes. Out of mere compassion for them, Bhagavan says, abiding in their hearts, destroy the darkness of them, born of ignorance, but the luminous lamp of Jnana. Same thing. Kalena atmani vindati. Over a period of time, I give them. You must have heard this Chinese sage, Confucius, centuries ago. Beautiful words. If there is righteousness in the heart, there will be beauty in character. If there is righteousness, life of dharma, life lived according to the pure buddhi. And then if there is beauty in character, there will be harmony in home. And if there is harmony in home, there will be order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there will be peace in the world. Does the United Nations follow that? Well, you know that. Okay. So we talked about Bal, we talked about Buddhi. The third one was Vidya, knowledge. And this is also very important. As a matter of fact, this is, we have a lot of universities, institutions, to grant various degrees where the knowledge is generated and passed on from generations to generations. But there's tremendous discussion going on. What is education? Just going through a discipline, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, you're an engineer, or you're a plumber, you do this and then you will be able to do that. Is that education? So there's tremendous discussion going on in the academic world right now. So the Gita has defined that education. Vidya means knowledge, both secular knowledge of the objective world, what our own wants to learn, because that is necessary too, which we get from various institutions and so on and so forth. But in addition to that, the spiritual knowledge, the knowledge of the Atman, also one must know, or one must practice. When one practices these two, both the secular knowledge and the knowledge of the spirit, only then one is called knowledgeable. That is what Vidya means. And there is a very profound verse that is the end result of Vidya, Vidya dadati vinayam. If the knowledge you have, if you are an educated person, then Vinaya, humbleness of divine enters into the picture. Ego goes down. But does that happen when our education? Few more degrees I have a mile higher ego. That's what happens. So in summary then, we started, I'll take another 5-6 minutes. We started asking the question about an algorithm for wisdom. Essentially, when one lives a dharmic life of righteousness, which is made possible when one practices the spiritual disciplines, one develops pure buddhi, wisdom, which guides us at every step of our life. Not only that, because now I have this algorithm, I have developed the pure buddhi, then I really don't have to depend on somebody else saying so, or this book says so, somebody else is saying so. No. My own mind becomes strong enough, knowledgeable enough, that I can make my own decisions. You become an independent thinker, which in every age is an extremely important thing, because right now one gets swayed by this, swayed by that, because we have not developed that critical faculty. But some very interesting things happen with this development. First sign of this is the self-confidence. The highly positive attitude of can-do. Yes, I can handle that. Yes, I can do that. And this is no mere bravado or hot air. This confidence is simply the result of one's getting established in the spiritual wisdom. As one moves a little bit more, another thing happens. One feels self-satisfied. As one's attitude becomes greatly positive, and one is able to achieve the goals. You have thought it right, you have the mental power, you do it, and the goals are achieved. Self-satisfaction. And once you have the self-satisfaction, another interesting thing happens. If somebody asks you for some money or donation, begs for something, and if you don't have anything, you're not going to, what will you say? Run away, go away. On the other hand, if you have plenty of it, somebody asks you, it's for you to self-sacrifice. Starts with self-confidence, self-satisfaction, and then self-sacrifice. Again, Kalyana Atmanivindati. And over a period of time, when you start doing that, it leads to self-realization, which is the samam bonam of life. You see, all what we have been talking about does not mean that one has to become a monk. Not at all. All our activities of life can be grouped under two headings. We call artha. One is related to money, economy, wealth related. Anything wealth related is in Sanskrit called artha. The other is kama, which means satisfaction of desires of various kinds, physical, mental, you name it. One can fulfill all these desires to one's heart's contents, but with just one condition. Just make sure that these desires are fulfilled according to dharma. Dharma is the foundation. Nothing should be contrary to dharma. Dharma means righteous life. Okay? And then, if this condition is met, then one does not have to worry about liberation or self-realization. One will achieve it by oneself over a period of time. And we have two words for that. One is, dharma, and the other is amritam. In the prayer, what do we do? Asato ma satgame, tamaso ma jyotirgame, mrityor ma amritam game. That amritam, dharma life, will take us to the amritam, which is the realization of the self, God realization. And then the second follow-up is we should remember three words: yoga, bhoga, and roga. Yoga, we have defined, disciplined life. Bhoga means enjoyment, whatever you can think of. And roga is all types of diseases, you name it, physical, mental, anything. If the foundation is yoga, you can have bhoga as well. Chances of roga will be very small. On the other hand, if you do not have any yoga, have only bhoga, roga must follow, will follow. So you see how important, even to live an enjoyable life, how important is the spiritual discipline of yoga. So remember these three words: yoga, bhoga, and roga. We all want to enjoy, no problem at all. But see to yourself that one is establishing yoga. Otherwise, we have, whether it's anxiety attack, whether it is memory loss, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's other physical disorders, they'll fall automatically. And finally, you remember we started with this word, algorithm, to achieve all this. Our scriptures give us a beautiful algorithm, just 2 lines. If we understand them, all this is summarized in them. It says, Ahar Shuddho Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Shuddhi Jnana Siddhi. Ahar, all the intakes, inputs to the body, which we talked about, if they are pure, then the mind of the buddhi becomes pure. Chitta is mind plus buddhi. And once the chitta becomes pure, it leads to jnana siddhi. Then one achieves jnana automatically. Just that. Ahar shuddho chitta shuddho jnana siddhi. So, that's one achieves. So, again going back to our words, that is why it says there's nothing more profound, not greater than jnana. Because once we are establishing that, everything is available to us. Both dharma as well as anudharma. Thank you, Swami.